Hey, so I just want to start this recording off by saying thank you for this course because despite the fact of me struggling a bit through it between juggling this and work, it's actually helped me a lot with my job, which has been really cool, and I can get more into that later on in the questions. But first question, was this your first time using Maya or any 3D software? No, this wasn't my first time using a 3D software. I dabbled in ZBrush, a little bit of Blender, Cinema 4D as well. And I have to say, I like Maya's user interface a lot. So yeah. What are your favorite things that you learned? The power of lighting is what I would say. Just the overall mood and tone that it can set is really powerful. In my position as a media director, I kind of do a lot of cinematography on the side as well. But up until recently, I kind of ignored lighting, just saw it as like sounds weird cousin. And not because lighting's bad or anything, because lighting can actually set the mood of a story. It can make the audience or viewer feel certain emotions. But I just was never really good at lighting. I didn't know where to start at it. So those charts that you sent out, like that graphic, actually helped me out a lot with the positioning and how to cast different shadows and just various angles of that. So that was really cool. Like right now, I'm having to film a story of a lady with drug abuse and just showing her story. And I'm actually applying those lighting skills that I learned from here for that. So, which projects are you proud of? So I have this Nuke viewport open right now, and I would say this project is the one I'm most proud of. I love the overall lighting that I have on her face, just between this one and this one. I love this shading a lot, and just how like the harsh shadows hit her cheekbones and everything. I find that really cool. So yeah, I would have to say this one was my overall favorite project. I also noted the part where you said that you can kind of make, keyframe like a flickering light to make it look like a candle. I would really love to explore that later on in the future because that sounds really cool. But yeah. So the next question, how do you think a knowledge of cameras, rendering, and lighting will help you in future classes? Well, these three things are kind of the core foundation of today's animation. So even kind of a basic level of understanding for these branches will kind of make or break what we create in future classes. So I think it'll help a lot because it's such a core value that we all need to have, which is why, of course, we're learning that. So, is there anything you found interesting from examples of real-world cameras and lights? I would say the use of the harsh shadows and the charts that were sent out. I was kind of always taught to stay away from harsh shadows. I don't know why, but that was just something I was taught ever since I was a sophomore in high school in my video technology class, all the way to the advanced level, which is just something that my teacher said. But seeing this project, it kind of showed me a different side to it. I think what my teacher was probably trying to tell us was that you don't want to use it for everything. You use it in moderation, or of course that depends on what story you're trying to convey. I mean, if I went my entire life doing like drug abuse stories or whatever, and they're like actually like supposed to be tearjerkers, then of course you're probably going to use a little bit more of that than some happy-go-lucky lighting. But yeah, it just depends on the mood, tone, atmosphere that you're trying to set. What are your thoughts on node editing in Nuke? I actually like this question a lot. So for me, I honestly, Nuke opened up my perspective of node editing. Before, I used to kind of skirt around node editing in Cinema 4D Cinema 4D and Blender, because I just didn't like the overall layout and look of it. It kind of looks intimidating, to be honest. And I just like the overall hierarchy of this. And I mean, that's all node editors really are. It's just a hierarchy of UIs. But I liked how you can just press tab and then just type in exposure, for an example. And it'll kind of link everything together if it's highlighted. I really liked how flexible they made it. They really thought that out for the users. So I really appreciated that. And I actually like it a lot for this in particular. So I'm excited to kind of dive more into that later on. What feature classes, softwares, and topics are you most excited to learn about? So the first one I'm most excited to learn about is probably Nuke. I'm very skilled in After Effects and Premiere, but I know that After Effects is, I don't want to say it's like a low tier compositing software, because it's not. I mean, honestly, it's up to the user. That's just my lack of knowledge of the program. But I know that Nuke is a very powerful tool and that it can do a lot more at a larger scale. So I'm really excited to dive more into that. I looked a little bit ahead and saw like crowd replication and things like that. So I really want to see how to make fun things like that. I want to get into 3D camera tracking so I can implement 3D models into the real world. I dabbled in that a bit inside of Cinema 4D, and I actually made something of that sort, but it of course looked terrible now. I use After Effects and Cinema 4D to pull that off, and it was actually like a Polaroid effect. I got the idea from the other Netflix original, Man Oh Man. Anyway, and it was pretty much like Polaroids floating around the person and kind of telling their story. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. My second software I would say is ZBrush. ZBrush, I've also dabbled in that before. I've made 2 previous creatures, and I can post images of that. And yeah, ZBrush's UI is out of this world. I would have to say that. It took me probably a whole of 3 days to learn it because it was just that abnormal. Like, I thought Blender was terrible with their hotkeys. Well, not Blender 2.8, but the old Blender. I thought that was pretty bad, but no, I think ZBrush took the cake. But like, now that I learned it and got past the fact that like left click and right click are just abnormal, it's pretty simple. Not easy, but simple, I would say. Yeah. And lastly, I would say Maya. So Maya, I'm actually on the edge about Maya. And here's why. I've gone from, as I've said, I've gone from Blender to Cinema 4D to Maya, and I know that they're all just tools in the end. And like I said before, it's up to the user and their knowledge and their skill set of it. But I know that Maya is right now the industry standard. I mean, that doesn't say much. I mean, just because it's an industry standard, that industry standard can shift at any moment. I know that there are a lot of companies that are now resorting to Blender because of all these updates. And a lot of people use Cinema 4D on a larger scale, like Mitch Myers. And he's made things for like The Voice. And granted, he's more of a freelancer, but still, I've seen Cinema 4D used for industry level pipelines. Now, overall, aside from Nuke, which is my top one I'm most interested in, along with ZBrush, I'm really excited to see RenderMan. I really want to see what RenderMan can do. Right now, what has my heart in the rendering section is Octane Render, and Octane Render is pretty darn great at photorealism. And they made it really simple to to use. So I'm excited to see what RenderMan can do and like how that holds up. Because I mean, in the world of rendering, you have so many rendering softwares that are CPU and GPU based, between Redshift, Octane Render, Corona Render, RenderMan, Arnold, and that's actually why I was really interested in the fact that we didn't use Arnold to begin with. Instead, we resorted with RenderMan, which is Pixar's, which is still great, and I've never experimented with RenderMan before. So yeah, I really can't wait to see how this all flows out and continues to take us in the next course. But I'm really excited, and that is all. Thank you.